Tonight on the fifth chapter, the deal is done and Matt Stafford is a Los Angeles Ram while Jared Goff heads to Detroit with 3 draft picks. So was the package enough, and was it the best offer presented to the Lions? Now that Stafford is in LA, will his biggest fans in Detroit continue to root for him, or hope number 9 in the Rams fall flat? Dennis and Brian weigh in. And many of college basketball's biggest programs are struggling and may not come close to making the tournament. So will that turn fans off of March Madness? Join the conversation by commenting live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. This is the fifth chapter with Dennis Fithian and Brian Chapman. He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the fifth chapter. Brian Chapman, Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the fifth chapter. That's right. Welcome to the fifth chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. We're ready for episode number 75. And Dennis, we got some great news today for college football fans. EA Sports College Football is coming back.
Yeah, I heard that. I think they need to make sure they put a transfer portal and in the new one to make it really lifelike.
Yeah, you know how crazy that would be if you did like whatever the equivalent of franchise mode would be for college football, and you did the transfer portal. I'm sure that if you played that, you'd have, you know, like Jalen Waddle staying an extra year and then transferring to Michigan, Trevor Lawrence staying an extra year, transferring to Michigan. Think about how awesome that'd be.
I can tell you right now, I would have Rashawn Benny trying to flip the defensive tackle from Michigan State to Michigan before tomorrow morning. That's what I would be working on right now.
Yeah, if they put the transfer portal into, I mean, it would seem like that would be the most responsible thing to do. And even if you can't choose who gets to transfer and who doesn't, you might have a 5-star who's sitting on the bench for 2 years and then just decides to transfer somebody else if you do the franchise mode, and maybe he goes to your arch rival.
Yeah, true story. Like, I love football, college and pro. I've never spent 5 seconds playing Madden or EA college football, but I know it's very popular.
Wow, sure. Never?
You know what? I had 3 roommates when I was at Eastern, lived in an apartment, and I liked video games a little bit, but we only had one TV. These guys played 10 hours of video games, and I would sit down, and I was getting beat like whatever, 60-0 or whatever game we were playing then. And I said, I want to watch regular TV. And they're like, you're outruled. And I said, I'm swearing off video games. You guys are a bunch of blank holes.
Wow.
And you know what? I don't think I've played a video game since.
Wow. Dennis's evil roommates destroyed his love for video games.
There's no reason to stay with that. I could have always gone back and played video games, but I never have.
Do your kids have a video game system?
Yeah, my son's a gamer. He's got it all. Yeah.
Wow.
He had some EA, he had some Madden. He still has them. And I thought about going back and playing some of the old school ones, but just, you know what? It didn't happen. It's never happened.
All right. Well, there you have it. Dennis Fithian, not a gamer, and excited for the rest of us, but he's not going to play EA college football. We're excited for 5 fantastic chapters, whether Dennis wants to play along or not, thanks to all who are watching.
I'm playing along.
Yeah. Thanks to all who are watching via YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, and to those who are listening to the podcast via Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure that you make sure that you subscribe to the show, and you can also participate in each show by sending in your comments via Facebook Live and via YouTube. Dennis will be taking a look and reading those throughout the course of the show. Let's take a look at today's book. In the second chapter, of course, we all know the big news is about Jared Goff and Matt Stafford, but could Jared Goff actually be better than Matt Stafford? In the third chapter, are Lions fans going to continue to root for Matt Stafford now that he's a member of the LA Rams? They did that for another prominent, longtime Detroit athletes. In the fourth chapter, would March Madness really be the same if some of the blue bloods like Duke continue to stink and don't make the tournament? We'll give you our thoughts on those teams and which teams are in jeopardy, serious jeopardy of missing March Madness. And then in the fifth chapter, we've got a special edition of the Major Wager as we prepare for Super Bowl, 55 we're getting ready for?
It is 55 in Tampa, and the chap, we'll do some business on the air. We are running a little fifth chapter Super Bowl. It's not squares, but it's a challenge, and we've asked a series of questions that kind of props of the Super Bowl. We want the score, we want the final, we want anthem, and all of that. I don't know if you're prepared tonight to be able to throw up a particular graph that shows all of those questions, but I know that Brian Jelinek did tweet some of those out. So if you're on Twitter, you just have to hashtag the fifth chapter. You'll be able to see it. I was ready to present the grand prize for the winner. If you're better than the three of us, the closest two the winner, they have to beat us three. I've got a great grand prize. I'm just looking for it. Is
it the Stafford jersey behind you?
That's not bad, but that's not mine. That's my daughter's. She'd probably let me give it away. It's actually autographed if you look close enough. But it's a Barry Sanders, the game program that he went over 2,000 yards. I was at that game.
You're gonna get rid of that?
Well, you know what? I was in a suite. First time I think I ever was in a suite, and I snagged. There were like 4 or 5 of the game programs, and I put them in my bag. So I've 2 or 3 of them survived, and I know I have one of those around here. I'm just looking for it, and I've been looking up. Like, I think it's worth a couple $100. Hey, Barry Sanders. What game is he most synonymous with? You could argue the Cowboys' playoff win, their only playoff win. I would buy that, but if you had to pick number 2, the game against the Jets, where he went over 2,000 yards, that would be the second one. So. I think it's very valuable, and I'm ready to give it away.
Wow,
so
Dennis is giving away more.
I gotta find it.
Yeah,
I have to find it first off, and we'll put the rules on there. You can use the hashtag, or you can go to our podcast and put it in the review there, and it'll be there forever, which will be pretty awesome too. So either one of those options are available for you. You should be able to find that with pretty, and it's free to play. So come on, and I don't. Are we going to have 1,000 people in there? I noticed there's already, about 10. Maybe after today there'll be 20 or 30. Maybe after Thursday there'll be up to 50. So you've got a pretty good shot. 7 questions, all tied up to the Super Bowl. Make your picks and let's go.
Dennis is giving away more free money than the casinos.
That's right. If
I
can find that Thursday.
Yeah, if you
not,
can find
I'll
it.
I'll have some other things for you.
Yeah, you'll just give out $200 bills.
It won't be that, but I've been going through a lot of my old collectibles. Like, come to find out, man, after all of these years of all of my baseball cards and football cards, it finally seems like everybody's into them right now. So I've been going through so many cards. I'll have a selection of memorabilia cards-wise if I can't find that Barry program. So there you go.
All right, let's turn the page to the first chapter, and that takes us to the same old Lions. And last week there was a report that came out that we discussed in length about Stafford demanding or requesting a trade, and we both said that it was going to happen before March, but it wouldn't happen before the Super Bowl, and we were dead wrong about that last part because on Saturday, according to reports, Stafford was traded to the Rams for Jared Goff, a 2021 third-round pick, a 2022 first-round pick, and a 2023 first-round pick. The trade can't be finalized until March 17th, but I checked ESPN.com to look at the statistics for Stafford today, and he's got the Rams logo in the background, and when you look at the Jared Goff page, it's got the Lions logo in the background. So for all intents and purposes, everything is official except for the date not being March 17th. But the Lions got a ton for Stafford. A lot of experts say the Rams clearly upgraded at quarterback, and the Rams got a treasure trove when they made that deal with the Rams by getting all those picks. But was it the best deal? According to MMQB on SI.com, Some of the other offers weren't all that impressive. The 49ers never offered their number 12 pick. The Broncos wanted a pick swap. The Patriots offered a second-round pick and a player. The other two main competitors did have sweeter offers. The Panthers own the number 8 pick in the draft, and they offered the number 8 pick and a later pick for Stafford. Washington football team, their general manager, of course, is Martin Mayhew, the guy who drafted Stafford in Detroit. They offered the number 19 pick and a third-round pick. So we're talking about first-round picks, not just sometime in the future. We're talking about this year. Dennis, I want to know what you thought about the best deal that was on the table, about those reported deals. But before you do so, what was your initial reaction when you saw what the Lions got on Saturday night?
Well, I sat there and I saw it on Twitter and I thought, man, that's a lot of picks. And I'm like, wait, why do they want Goff? That was my first reaction. Since then, thinking it over, letting it sink in, I like getting Goff, more and more. It depending on how he plays. I hope he plays either really well or really bad. I mean, that's going to be the key, because if he does a little bit of this Matt Stafford act, he'll be like right there in the middle, or a little bit better and a little bit worse, which might make you feel like you've got something in him. You want to really know definitively. But what did I think? I thought the Lions did well when I saw it, and then I've continued to think more and more about the trade since Saturday night.
And what did you think was the best deal on the table? Was it the one that they took, or was it the one from Washington or Carolina?
Well, you know what? Getting the number 8 overall pick, if you try to use the draft calculator, the 8th pick is more valuable if you consider, and I don't know if you can do this or not, assume that the Lions got one of those first rounders for taking on Goff's salary, getting a first and a third rounder, and not this upcoming draft, but the following year, and just a third rounder. The 8 is way more valuable. Then you're going, if you could land a quarterback that you knew just wasn't stopgap or a placeholder that could have some promise, though, and these are quarterbacks that you look at like Mitchell Trubisky. Not that I think Mitchell Trubisky's the greatest, but he was a very high pick, number 2 overall. If he was available, you get him, and you're thinking maybe it would be like a Ryan Tannehill situation. If Mariota was available, if Haskins, I know he ended up signing with the Steelers, you get one of those guys, and the number 8 pick, that would have been more valuable. But you know what? Having Goff, he does seem like you look at those first 2 years and what he was able to do, and then you look at the last 2 years. If you somehow are able to figure out why he can't throw the ball down the field, if he can toughen up a little bit, if he can use this change of scenery, sometimes it does flip a switch on for guys, and they can go back and they can get the best out of him, and he ends up being a franchise quarterback. I think it's worth the risk for 2 years, so I like it.
Yeah, my initial reaction was I was speechless. I mean, I was driving around Ubering on Saturday night, and I saw a message came through on my phone, breaking news, Matt Stafford, and I couldn't see the whole thing until I was able to stop my car, and then I saw, and I was speechless, because, as you know, I've been saying for a long time that the haul, that an appropriate haul for Stafford would not be what they got. I was saying second round pick and a fourth round pick. And if you look at what the Patriots were offering, that was approximately what they were offering, because they said, we'll give you a second round pick plus a player. And that player perhaps would have been, equal to a fourth round pick. But to get 2 first round picks and a third round pick and a 26-year-old, not a almost 33-year-old, a 26-year-old 2-time Pro Bowler who had a down year but is pretty much average throughout his career, just like Matt Stafford is, was stunning to me. I could not believe it. I had a friend of mine text me on Saturday night saying, didn't the Lions just basically trade away, or didn't the Rams just basically trade away a guy who's pretty much as good as the guy that they're getting? by trading away Goff and getting Matt Stafford. And I was thinking pretty much the same thing. Yeah, they're roughly equivalent quarterbacks. Goff is a heck of a lot younger. Goff has been to Pro Bowls as recently as 17 and 18, and you're going to give them multiple first-round picks and a third-round pick to do it. I thought it was an absolute steal. Now, there were some other options out there, like you mentioned, from Carolina and from Washington. You know, Washington getting the number 19 pick in the draft and a third-round pick. That I would have taken that had the Rams deal not been there, but it doesn't come close to what the Rams are offering. And you look at Carolina getting the 8th pick. I would want to know what that other pick was. Was it a future third-round pick? Was it a first, or was it a second or a third or a fourth-round pick this year? I'd want to know. But getting 2 first-round picks and getting a third-round pick and getting a quarterback who is not going to just be some guy that you have to you have to start from scratch with a rookie. He's not an old washed-up veteran. He's a guy who's won playoff games as recently as last month. Yeah, this is a steal. There was no better deal that I think the Lions could have made. And you also have to think about this. Brad Holmes came from the Rams. He was a guy who scouted Jared Goff coming out of college. So maybe he thinks that Sean McVay was screwing things up. Obviously, McVay did not have a great relationship with Goff at the end, and perhaps he knows that the best can be gotten out of Goff by bringing him to the Lions. So if the Lions could get perhaps a Pro Bowl or close to Pro Bowl or even just a little above average Jared Goff out of him and get these picks, like this is it's shocking. I'm still befuddled by why the Rams would make such, like, the other thing I thought when they made this deal is, who exactly did the Rams think they were getting? I mean, all these picks.
Well, the one thing about Goff is they thought so little of him that they benched him for Wolford in that final game. And you can talk about that thumb injury. So you do look to some of the analytics. Well, before you even do that, 38 turnovers is the last 31 games that he played for the Rams. That jumps out at you. Totally turnover prone. Got to do better than that, but we know turnovers. Stafford has been turnover prone at different times in his career. But I really think it's the average pass per attempt and the expected air yards, those Pro Football Focus analytics about driving the ball down the field. It's really how risk averse you are and your ability to be able to get the ball and drive it down the field. Stafford ranked number 2 out of all quarterbacks this year, and Goff ranked 29. So he really, and he was trending, both of them, with Darrell Bevell. That was the one thing, those yards, the completions, yards per completion, the expected air yards, those went way up for Stafford under Bevell, who let him take more shots down the field. McVay clearly wanted Goff to be able to do that and wanted a quarterback to be able to throw the ball down the field. Goff not able to, and combine that with being turnover prone. And I do think they're getting the better quarterback, talking about the Rams, but I don't know by how much. Like I think people think of Matt Stafford, like I think they watch those Dan Orlovsky videos. Dan Orlovsky's in love. I mean, like he's just got stars in his eyes and hearts. He wants to marry Matt Stafford. He's in absolute love with them. And
very jealous of Kelly, isn't he?
I think I think he loves both of them. I don't know what's going on there. It's really it's an amazing type situation. I hope I'm able to, love something the way Dan Orlovsky loves Matt Stafford. But yeah, I think I've always said that if you could get Matt Stafford and put him in a situation like Matt Ryan, give him a really good running game, offensive line, defense, get him the head coach, put all that around him, I think he's got a shot to do something to win some playoff games. Well, they're doing that in L.A., but you better be careful with Matt Stafford. There's a lot of revisionist history going on. Like, people are like, oh, Patricia and Quinn sucked so bad, they sucked the life out of Stafford. That's not true. The first year, Patricia, those guys, it's true that those guys sucked. But that Patricia, that first year, that loss to the Jets, that was completely on Stafford. He sucked that game.
3 interceptions, wasn't it?
Right, when they climbed back into it that year, you remember that Seahawks game in the fourth quarter. He dropped the ball, he had butterfingers at midfield. Nobody was rushing him or anything else. Then he stared down Tate, in the end zone and threw a pick. That game was totally on him. The next week he went to Minnesota and his eyes were all glazed over. He was hanging out of the ball, took 8 sacks, and had a bunch of turnovers there, and the season was over. That was on Stafford. I don't want to hear people talk about, well, they chopped his legs off. Yeah, they sucked, but he sucked that year too.
Yeah.
And there were a couple other years like that too, where Matt Stafford wasn't all that great. And remember this, like Peter King, he got his extension in 2017. Peter King was ready. It was like a dead cap hit of over $50 million. And Peter King's like, Lions should move on. Maybe they'll send him to the Jags. Pat Caputo was like, he had seen enough. I don't care about the $50 million in dead money. Get him out of here. It's like, wow. And then, so maybe that's like the Goff situation. Like, man, they're ready to, cut bait with Goff. They gave up all those picks for him. Maybe he can pull a Matt Stafford.
Well, I'll tell you what, in Los Angeles, there's going to be a ton of pressure on Stafford. In Detroit, there certainly wasn't much because it was the same old Lions, and the goal was just to make the playoffs. And if you can win a playoff game, that's fine. But the Rams, they're coming off of a year where the quarterback that they hated came in relief to lead them to a playoff victory, and they're trying to do better than that now. And because they thought that the quarterback was the problem, they gave up all these draft picks in order to get this guy, Matt Stafford. So Stafford has to show that he is such a good quarterback that he can do better than the guy that they hated. He has to, like last year, the Rams won a playoff game and got to the divisional round. Now they have to get to the NFC Championship game. If they don't get to the NFC Championship game, then what was the point of trading for Matthew Stafford? There was no point in doing so. And Matthew Stafford, in his career, you mentioned some of the times when he struggled. There have been times in the fourth quarter where he's thrown a stupid pick. And that's been a problem in Detroit in low-pressure situations. At the same time, lots of Stafford slappies have been saying for years, oh, well, he needs a coach, he needs a running game, he needs weapons, he needs a defense, he needs all this, which suggests he's not all that great if he has to have all those things around him. But guess what? He goes to Los Angeles with arguably the best defense in the NFL. He goes to Los Angeles with a very good head coach who's already been to a Super Bowl and won a playoff game as recently as last month and did so on the road. So Matt Stafford is not going to have any excuses. He's going to have a ready-made team. I think that a lot of fans who have just seen Matt Stafford from afar as opposed to up close are going to realize that he's not as great as he was all that chalked up to be, especially if we see Stafford do what he's done in the last few years, and that's get hurt. Jared Goff doesn't have these injury issues. Matt Stafford going on 33 years old, I believe, in a couple of weeks, and he's been getting hurt with broken back, ribs, ankle, hand, and all that other stuff. If he gets hurt and they got to go to Walford or somebody else, well, then all those draft picks and getting rid of Goff was for naught.
Yeah, Goff didn't have a banged-up thumb heading into the
And with that banged-up thumb, he led his team to he wasn't great. He was 9-19 in relief, but he led his team to a playoff victory.
He did. Let's get to feedback. If you're watching this for the first time on Twitch or Facebook or something, you're like, feedback? I can be involved in the show? Exactly. You just get your fingers going there, type out your opinion, your question, and we read it throughout the show. That's how it works. All right, let's go to the live chat on YouTube. And let's see where, we got the feedback coming in. Let's party. Let's see. K Salty, just give it to me. I'm here. More than the rest of the people. I think he's talking about that Barry Sanders program. What up? Stafford trade was long overdue. Should have been dealt years ago. Kenneth Johnson, bye-bye Stafford. No playoff wins.
Yeah, that's going to be one of Matt Stafford's legacies, as he was drafted number 1 overall. For 12 years, he had national media drooling over him, talking about how great he was, his arm talent was. When he finally had his first healthy season in his third year, he led the Lions to the playoffs, and everyone thought, he was this amazing Pro Bowl snub. And he finishes his Lions career with one Pro Bowl appearance that he backed into after at least two quarterbacks did not or chose not to participate. And then in the playoffs, he had one good outing, which is his first one in New Orleans, one okay outing against the Cowboys, and one terrible outing when the Lions lost 26-6 to the Seahawks. That's his legacy in Detroit.
Yeah, well, I'll buy what you were serving up there in those playoff games, your assessment of how he did in those three games. Jelinek reminding people, search hashtag the Fifth Chapter on Twitter to get the pick'em action going. That's right. If you're just tuning in, we got a Super Bowl competition. If you know how to use hashtag, there you go. The Fifth Chapter, you'll be able to see the pick'em. You'll be able to put them on there. We'll get you in. You can, win the grand prize. And somebody said last week, guys, get involved in fantasy coming up, all of that. I think we can do it using that hashtag, the Fifth Chapter. So how about it? Or going to the actual podcast, and I hope somebody gets in there where you leave the comments and is able to put it in there. You'll be a real star for that. All right, more here. Keith says, Matt Stafford, his nickname, one of his nicknames here, old number 9 in Detroit, says he's just not a winner. Rams will regret this deal even if he stays healthy, which is unlikely with a chronic back injury and other ailments. I just don't think he's worthy of a deal like that. Well, you know what? It's very bold. You can see the Rams are throwing around first-round picks like candy over the last few years. It's amazing what they're trying to do here. They're zigging while everybody else is zagging, and I always say I appreciate that when it works. When it doesn't, you end up looking like a fool. But they're going all in here, and we're going to see if this is going to work or not.
Well, so far they've been successful with playoff appearances in 2 out of the last 3 years, a Super Bowl appearance 2 years ago, a playoff win this year. So you can't say that they've been a failure. But what's different now is that, when you trade 2 first-round picks for Jalen Ramsey, that's obviously to lock down your pass defense and have one of the best pass defenses in the league. But when you win a playoff game and then you trade 2 first-round picks plus a third-round pick, plus you get rid of your franchise quarterback who just signed a $100+ million extension, then it's not just let's continue to be one of the toughest playoff teams that don't win the Super Bowl. Then it's you have to get to the Super Bowl and preferably win it.
Yeah, Super Bowl or bust. You're right about that. Okay, Salty, that's hilarious. You saw what happened without Stafford last year, but yeah, he's gone. He's what was holding us back. Keith, so as people have asked, what is Deshaun Watson worth in a trade? 2 or 3 first-rounders and a couple 2s? Herschel Walker type deal, maybe. Yeah, I said 3 1s and 2 2s. That's what it's going to take around that. Now you can put a quarterback into that equation if you're the Jets or the Dolphins, like the Jets. Darnold, what was he, number 2 overall? Tua, was a top 10 pick. So, then you're talking about those guys were pretty high first rounders. So you can, maybe offset some of that. But that's the kind of package it's going to take if you're going to get Deshaun Watson.
Well, based on the Stafford value, I wonder who's going to want to give up enough to get Deshaun Watson, because it has to be higher than 2 future first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a franchise quarterback if you're going to get him. So I don't know what that value is going to be. As it looks like we may have lost Dennis. Did we lose that? Oh, no, Dennis is right there. A little bit.
You're back. There you are.
Yeah.
We lost you for we lost you for a second.
Oh, okay. But I wonder who's going to want to pay a tax because when you go from an average quarterback who's made 1 Pro Bowl and has injury issues and is almost 33 years old, and you compare that to a guy in Deshaun Watson who's been to 2 or 3 Pro Bowls and is only in his 4th year and is one of the top 5 QBs in the league, you would have to think that the first round pick price tag would have to be perhaps doubled. Like, who's giving up 4 first-round picks in order to get Deshaun Watson? And is that even going to be worth it? I would think the price tag would be too high to move on from him, which would mean that if the Texans are going to get rid of him, they're going to have to take a low ball offer.
Or, I don't think this is going to happen, but there was it's going to be something like, Jacksonville's got that number 1 overall. It could be like, boom, you want a young Trevor Lawrence, this generational quarterback? We'll throw him to you, Deshaun Watson, straight up. Or if you're somebody like the Ravens, the reigning MVP, hey, want to swap Lamar Jackson for Deshaun Watson? I mean, you can take something like that.
Yeah, well, the other problem is the reputation of the Houston Texans around the league, because they're getting dogged more than the same old Lions right now. So what you wouldn't want to do is trade for a guy like Lamar Jackson, who's got a contract that's going to expire in a couple of years, and then have him say, I'm out. Now, you would have a year or two to try to say, hey, we've got a new regime here, and give us a chance. We'll show you that we could win. But if he goes in there and he sees just how toxic it is, and it's just as bad as Deshaun Watson and other former Texans have said it is, then they're going to be trading Deshaun Watson for a guy who's going to be out.
Kenneth, Stafford is brittle. All of those injuries are taking its toll. He doesn't do it in winning time like Rodgers. We'll swipe at Rodgers. Key says Jared Goff is average. And he lost his confidence in L.A. Maybe he can get it back here, but I doubt it. He played with a great offensive coach. The Jelinek says Goff is a good QB, not expecting the world, but he will be solid in Detroit. And Kay Salty says, thank you, Chapman. That's what I'm saying.
You're
like
welcome.
What you're saying.
You're welcome.
Yeah, let's look over to Facebook. People are in here throwing some question out there. Who cares? DJ Major. Who cares if it was the next deal? The Lions, got 3 picks for what B. Chap calls Stat Padford. Beth says Rams are taking a huge risk. They have all of their money tied up in 6 players, no first-round picks since Goff was selected. And Paul says best pass rusher available for Detroit now at number 7. And there you go. Any thoughts on any of those feedback?
Well, when it comes to the best pass rusher, we talked about this on Thursday. Looking at the mock drafts, there isn't an edge rusher that appears to be worthy of a top 10 pick. Is it going to be Kwity Paye? Is it going to be somebody else? Kwity Paye, if he's the best pass rusher, it looks like he's best suited to come in at around the number 15 pick or lower. He's certainly not the next Bosa or the next Chase Young or some of these other guys that have been coming out recently and been going top 5. So drafting an edge rusher at number 7, unless somebody really just blows you out of the water with the combine, doesn't make any sense. If the Lions need help on that defensive line, interior and exterior, they're going to have to do that in either free agency, which they tried and failed with Trey Flowers at $19 million a year, or do so in the later rounds of the draft.
Yeah, I do like the part about Goff coming in, like the 2-year window to see if he's got an up arrow and he can play like a top 10 quarterback, or you're going to get out of there. When it gets to that number 7 pick, you don't have to take a quarterback, and I like that. Now, if Fields or Wilson are there, I would think that the Lions would take them, but they don't have to take Trey Lance and feel like they're getting some sloppy seconds, or I guess in this case it would be sloppy fourths when it comes down to a QB. They could just chill and say, no, we're not going to do it. And they could also move back and grab a bunch of picks and think about taking a QB elsewhere. So I like that aspect of it, of getting Goff as well. All right, you ready to turn the chapter?
Yeah, let's turn the page to the second chapter.
That's what I meant. And that gets us to Jared Goff. And Super Bowl 3 years ago, he was the number 1 the number 1 paid player in NFL history. And that was 16 months ago. 3 years ago, he was at the controls of the number 1 offense in the NFL. 2 years ago with that Super Bowl, they were the number 2 offense. So that's a lot of what's going on. What are the expectations for Jared Goff here in Detroit?
Well, one thing you have to wonder is what you texted me and could Goff be better than Stafford? And obviously, if you're Stafford slappy, you're going to say, no, Matt Stafford was, at his worst, the top 5 quarterback in the league. But Goff could definitely be better than Stafford because of what transpired just a couple of years ago. 17, in his second year in the league, he was a Pro Bowler. 18, his second year in the league, he was a Pro Bowler. These last couple of years, 19 and 20, he's had a lot of turnovers, and Sean McVay and the front office really had a great rift with him, and they traded him away. Like, think about how, just as an aside, one of the reasons I felt so bad for Jared Goff was not only was he getting traded to the same old Lions, and not only was he getting traded to a place where a lot of the fans were never going to give him the benefit of the doubt because they're big-time Stafford slappies, but his previous organization said to him, we think so little of you that you are a third-round pick, a first-round pick, and another first-round pick worse than an average quarterback. That's how little we think of you. You're that much worse than an average quarterback. But
I'll throw you an aside too while you said that. I just remember, and I don't know if there's any truth to it, but there was a lot of chatter on Twitter about it, and I don't know what the relationship status of Jared Goff or Sean McVay is. So, like again, this is like from Rumor Central, but the rumor was that Goff was making a play for McVay's girlfriend, and I think they even showed I don't know, did he say something on Instagram like?
Was it Holly Summers or was it somebody else?
I don't know. I would understand the move from Goff if it was Holly Sanders. So
yeah, because I know Holly Saunders or Summers or whatever her name was. She was dating Sean McVay a couple of years ago, but I don't know if they broke up.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's a love triangle, and that's why he's out. That would be good for Detroit. Now we know about the passing downfield, and that's what I thought it was numbers wise, and clearly he wasn't the quarterback that he was. When they went to the Super Bowl in the year before, the offense has dipped. But, if it was a love triangle there, I don't know.
I had not heard that.
I don't know what the situation is with Dan Campbell, but
Well, I don't know what the situation is either with Campbell. Looks like we lost Dennis again. I don't know what the situation is with Dan Campbell and his wife either, but I would imagine that Dan Campbell's wife. Now we got Dennis back.
I kept thinking that was you that faded away, but maybe it was me.
Yeah, I was just saying I don't know what the situation is with Campbell and his wife, but I would imagine that her kneecaps disappeared a long time ago. But
just remember that.
Yeah, I will say this about Stafford versus Goff and what you can expect out of Goff. Stafford is going to be 33 years old next season, so he's not young. He's been getting hurt. You shouldn't expect a career year out of Matt Stafford, especially when you look at the weapons that he's going to have in Los Angeles. And if he gets hurt and misses half the season, then Jared Goff by default is better. If Jared Goff improves and gets back to the 2017 and 18 form, then Goff is better. Now Stafford is going to have perhaps the best offensive mind he's ever had working with him in Sean McVay, but Jared Goff is going to have Anthony Lynn working with him. Now answer this question. Who did a better job coaching quarterbacks last year? Sean McVay or Anthony Lynn? The answer is obviously Anthony Lynn because of what he did with Justin Herbert. So now he's going to get his hands on Jared Goff. The one thing I think will make things a little bit cloudier is it could be difficult to see who's better if you look at the stats. Because even though the Rams don't have great weapons with Cam Akers as a running back, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods as wide receivers, with Josh Reynolds and Van Jefferson, and then Tyler Higbee as a tight end, their weapons are a lot better than what it looks like it could be for the Lions, because now that they have traded for Goff, there's going to be significant salary cap restraints. They're going to have to shed players just to be able to fit in guys for the draft this year. They could lose Amendola, Jones, and Galladay, not even have the opportunity to franchise Galladay, and their top returning wide receivers would be Quintez Cephas and Mohamed Sanu. They could get somebody else in the draft. They could get a scrap heap bum via free agency, but when you're going to have those weapons around you, you can't expect Goff to be able to light it up and make the Pro Bowl next year.
Yeah, I think the other thing you have to wonder about is if Todd Gurley, when he was great, one of the best players in the NFL when that Rams offense was really humming. How much of that was him just being on a tear, and since they don't have Todd Gurley, that's when the offense completely took a dip. Yeah, you have one of the best running backs in the league. It's going to happen, but so those are tough to come by. Cam Akers came on at the end of the year, but he's still Todd Gurley in his prime.
No, and what's the expectation for DeAndre Swift, who would have to be in that Todd Gurley role if you want to to make that comparison. DeAndre Swift looked good in small spurts, but fell well short of 1,000 yards rushing. So, I mean, are we calling him another same old Lions second round running back bust? I don't know about that, but we're not saying that, hey, we can forget about Barry Sanders like Lions fans have been trying to do for 20 years.
Yeah, he's not Todd Gurley 2.0. I'm not ready to say that. Getting back to the love triangle, Kay Salty had some insight on it. He says it was a quote of what he said out loud over an Instagram pic to show the world Sean's girlfriend for people who don't know. So there you go. There's something to it. Something. Yeah, you have to pursue that a little bit more. How about that?
Yeah, I guess.
We do have a halftime score for that Michigan State game. And MSU is down 5 at the half to the Hawkeyes.
Okay. I may have a little something to say about that during the major wager.
Yeah, that's not going to surprise me. I'm ready to turn the page.
All right, let's turn the page now to the third chapter. And that will take us to more on Matt Stafford. Because Matt Stafford is a long time Detroit athlete who's getting traded out of town, and for a lot of Metro Detroit sports fans, they were rooting. They loved rooting for Matt Stafford. They loved cheering him on because he was quote unquote the best quarterback in Detroit Lions history, and they hated to see him go. And now they've got to see him suit up for another team. For a lot of folks, that'll be weird. But we do have a guy to compare him to. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but remember when Justin Verlander was a Tiger? It was a must-see JV whenever he pitched. He was a fan favorite, and when he was traded to the Astros, most Tigers fans immediately started rooting for Verlander and the Astros to win the World Series. The Astros became my second favorite team, the second favorite team of a lot of Tigers fans, and we cheered the Astros as they banged their way to that World Series title. Now, when it comes to Stafford, he's a lot more polarizing because fans have been saying for years that they wanted him out of town, while others have been saying that they love him more than their firstborn child. Dennis, when it comes to rooting interest, do you think more fans are going to be rooting for Stafford and the Rams to win or for Stafford and the Rams to lose?
Well, the fans that would be rooting for Stafford for the next 2 years are stupid. Let's just be honest about that. And the one thing, I go back to Justin Verlander. I was rooting for him when he went down to Houston as well. I didn't have any rooting interest. I didn't gamble on the World Series, and so I wanted to see him win the World Series. He did, but if when the Tigers won the World Series in '84, if I put that at 100, it was like at a 1 excitement level for Verlander, even though I was rooting for him. You can talk about, just remember this, you're going to be out there grabbing a Rams jersey and all of a sudden be all doing handsprings for Matt Stafford.
We will see Rams number 9 jerseys around town, I believe, in the next 12 months.
If there was no compensation tied to the Rams record over the next 2 years, I can understand people that like Matt Stafford. He was here for 12 years, especially younger people that don't know any better. Like, that's your quarterback. 12 years is a heck of a long time, and you love him. You got a little Dan Orlovsky in you. So he goes out there, you want to see him do well. I get that part, but you do understand, and I even understand people that want to see their team tanks. Like, I just can't wrap my head around it. I know. You can't wrap your draft position doesn't mean anything. All right, you try arguing with people about that, it gives you better odds of picking the better player. Now we're talking about having to root for Matt Stafford just because you want to see old boy do well, but it's going to hurt your draft position. Get out of here with that. You know what? I hope that the Rams, I hope he has decent success, but I want the Rams to crash and burn for the next 2 years. And, I can't see Stafford coming out of that very well. So you know what? I hope he crashes and burns. And if 2023, and I don't know how this could happen if the Rams somehow fell off a cliff and then they came back in over the next 2 years, had like a 4-5 win team, a lot of people would probably be getting fired at that point. Could I see him then, Stafford being there in 2023? Hey, in 2023, I'll root for Matt Stafford. Let's see him. Let's see an NFC title game of the Lions and the Rams in 2023. I'm there for that. But the next 2 years, I want to see him crash and burn, and you should too.
Yeah, the draft pick compensation is huge. I think there will be a lot of fans who are going to try to dismiss that and say, oh, draft picks don't matter that much. Look at the Rams. They got rid of all their draft picks, and they keep on going to the playoffs. And we got this genius. I shouldn't use genius because people use that term with Matt Patricia. But they've got this bright drafter in Brad Holmes who's helped the Rams to draft all these guys outside of the first round, and now we've got him. So draft picks aren't that big of a deal. Matt Stafford, he's my favorite quarterback. I'm going to root for him. Look, I think that there are 4 different categories of fans when it comes to rooting for Stafford now that he's gone. I think that there's the one category where Stafford's lappies are going to say the Rams are now my second favorite team. Maybe it'll be their number one team ahead of the Lions. There's the second category that's going to root for Stafford and the Rams, but not too hard. There's the third category that really doesn't care what they do. And then there's the fourth category that's going to root for the Rams to lose for any number of reasons. It could be, like you said, because they want the draft pick compensation. It could be because they've always hated Matt Stafford, whatever. And I actually did a Twitter poll on which of these 4 categories Lions fans fell into. And obviously, Dennis, you're picking that last category where you want the Lions, or you want the Rams and Matt Stafford to lose. Here are the results of the poll. As you can see, 34.3% say that they would root for Stafford, but not too hard. Coming in second place, 28.4% say they don't care what Stafford does. 20.9% are in your category, saying they will root for Rams losses. And 16.4% say that the Rams are now going to be their second favorite team. Those you would have to say are the big-time Matthew Stafford slappies who've got number 9s tattooed all over their backs and maybe even on their faces as well. If I was a Lions fan, and obviously I'm not, so I don't really get a vote, but I would root for the Rams to lose and go 0-16, just like you were saying. I mean, if I wouldn't root for Matt Stafford to get hurt, but if he continues to break down from a physical standpoint, and you do have the Rams go something like 6-10, then guess what? The Lions are going to have 2 top 10 picks in 2022. So either they can get the quarterback that they want if Goff is not the answer, or if Goff is the answer, then you can get 2 guys to surround him. And then if the Rams once again in 2022 have a bad year and they go 5-11, you could have top 10 picks again. Or if the Lions are starting to make strides, then they could be a good team that's adding a top 10 pick. So rooting for the Lions to win, or rooting for the Rams to win, doesn't make sense. It's like, all those years when the Red Wings were trading away guys like Peter Mrazek and whatnot, and you were saying, well, I want the team that Peter Mrazek was traded to lose so that draft pick can be higher.
Yeah, I remember when the Celtics, they traded Paul Pierce and Garnett to the Nets. You think Celtics fans were sitting around like, I really want Paul to do well? No, they wanted him. Ended up, falling apart.
It's a division rival, yeah.
And the Celtics got one of the greatest deals in NBA history out of that, and it stocked them for the future here. It's why they went from the basement and right back into competing for championships. Now what, like, your dreams of Matt Stafford getting to a Super Bowl somehow, like by proxy, that's going to make you feel like if you're a real Lions fan, you want high picks. You don't want Stafford playing in the Super Bowl so you can sit around saying, that's my quarterback.
Number 32 pick, yeah.
Oh, it's just great. If the Lions can't be there, this is the second best thing. I don't know. It just shows you how much people fall in love with quarterbacks. And they're in love with Matt Stafford.
Well, I will once again say that only 16% said that they're going to root hard for the Rams in that unscientific poll. But I will say this. You said that when Verlander and the Astros won the World Series, your excitement level was about a 1.
Which I wanted him to win. I
Yeah.
was rooting for him to do that. That was my pick. I wanted to
Yeah.
see him do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said that that's on a scale of 0 to 100, where 100 be the '84 World Series. For me, it was probably at around anywhere between a 25 and a 40. I was very pleased to see him win a World Series. But I would say that there are multiple differences between Verlander and Stafford. I mean, first of all, when Verlander left, I think it's fair to say he had a much higher approval rating in Detroit than Stafford. I mean, what was the number? I don't know, but probably around 80%. Stafford's was not at 80% when he left. Verlander had lots of playoff success. He led the Tigers to 2 World Series, and then when you consider about his individual performances, obviously in his first World Series it wasn't all that great because none of the Tigers pitchers were except for Kenny Rogers.
The second wasn't too hot either.
No, but he was dominant in consecutive Game 5s against the A's in the ALDS. Tigers fans are going to remember that. Matt Stafford has had no team success. And like I mentioned, in the playoffs, 1 good game, 1 okay game, 1 bad game. Verlander, from an individual standpoint, 2 Cy Youngs, an MVP, and 6 All-Star games where Stafford backed into a Pro Bowl and then backed into another one and decided not to play. Plus Verlander.
MVP. He was an MVP.
Yeah, Verlander?
No.
Stafford? Yeah,
Stafford.
For half of a season or something like that.
No, for the Pro Bowl.
Oh,
Pro
yeah.
Bowl.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, when Verlander went to the All-Star game, he gave up 5 runs in the first inning. So that shows that Stafford's better. And then the other
I like the MVP of the first half of the season 2 years ago. Yeah, that was awesome.
And then the other thing is, Verlander had 2 no-hitters in Detroit, and I don't know what the equivalent of that is in football, but Stafford didn't have that. Unless you want to talk about all the fourth quarter comebacks.
5,000 yards, 2011.
Yeah, maybe. But you look at all that stuff, there's no comparison between Verlander and Stafford.
Yeah, well, most of the people here on our chat are not all misty-eyed about Stafford leaving. Lions and Stafford have both been trash. That is from Keith. K. Salty's numbers basically like this. Either Stafford is trash or the Lions organization is trash. Can't have it both ways. So what is it? Yeah, look, to say Stafford is trash is going way overboard. Yeah, it is extreme. It's like the antithesis of Dan Orlovsky. Like Dan Orlovsky's in such love and thinks Stafford's like the Hall of Fame greatest quarterback ever. He's not that. He's not an elite quarterback. But he's not trash, He's in the middle, but he does bump over. Sometimes he bumps up, and you think, wow, man, this guy is a top 10 quarterback. Look how well he's playing. Then he falls back and throws these bad picks and costs his team some games. You're like, man, this guy's not an elite quarterback. He's definitely taken a step back. So
Stafford,
you know what he is? He is an enigma.
No, Stafford belongs in those AT&T commercials, and I think that a lot of Los Angeles Rams fans are going to say the same thing when they're going to say, hey, we got ourselves Matt Stafford. What do you think? Lions fan, what do you think about him? Well, he's okay.
There it is.
No,
is that the one you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the okay ones where they say, so how good do you think Matt Stafford is? He's okay. Just okay? We gave up 2 first-round picks, a franchise quarterback, and a third-round pick, and he's just okay? Well, yeah, he might throw some late interceptions, and he's been to 1 Pro Bowl, but that was a long time ago, so he's okay. But we gave up all these picks. Sorry. I think that's what a lot of Rams fans are going to feel this year. They're going to say, wow, he's just okay.
Beth was asking about the dead money on Goff that the Rams have to eat. And I don't have that at my fingertips as well. Jelinek said $22 million. I think that sounds about right. Was it 19 for Stafford and a little bit over 20 for Goff? I think.
I'm not sure, but I know that it significantly that the trade significantly limits how much money the Lions are going to have to spend in free agency, which is why the possibility of losing all 3 of their top receivers from last year is pretty high.
Yeah, the one thing I want to see the Lions do, and it's why I either want to see Goff be great or I want to see him really suck, is that I would like for the Lions here, not to find their franchise quarterback in 3 years, but I'd also like to see them just have their cap set for 2023. Like, yeah, they go out and have success this year. You know, it's not like I'm rooting against them from game one. You know, stranger things have happened. I don't think it's gonna be something where they put something together. But I want to see, like, you know, this year when you look at available cap room, you see the, you know, Jags up there with 90 million. You see the Jets with 80. You see the Colts with 70. In 2023, I want that to be the Lions. I want them to have the most cap room. I want them to have their franchise quarterback, and I want them to take a swing at this thing in 2023. Now, I don't think it's happening next year. I don't think it's happening in 2 years. That's the difference here. The Lions in their entire history have always sold next year. This is going to be the year. Why not us? We got this guy. We got that guy. Our fans are great. We won the offseason. Look at this free agent that we've got. And then, you know, we see what it's produced. I would like to see them take a year or two and gear it up for 2023.
Well, I think that sounds like a great plan, and I think that's something that Lions fans are probably not going to like, because for so many years when I would say, hey, don't worry about stinking the joint up in this upcoming season, that just worry about being a long-term contender and having a chance maybe in a couple of years to not just be 9-7, but be a great team. And all I would hear from Lions fans was, but we're going to suck this year. And I'm thinking, like, but you were going to suck this year? Well, this will guarantee we're going to suck this year. So I think that now that they've traded away Stafford, who was a golden boy and a best friend from afar for a lot of Lions fans, there might be more fans who are willing to be patient and say, all right, I'm okay with having a bad year in 2021, maybe even 2022, if we can guarantee that we'll be chomping off kneecaps and winning games and everything else by 2023.
I like your whiny Lions fans voice.
Yeah, that's how they sound.
Even better than your British accent. All right, we'll continue to read this feedback, but it's time again to turn the page.
Yeah, let's turn the page now to the fourth chapter.
Yeah, 4 fingers in the air. That gets us to college basketball, everybody's favorite. And, you know, Michigan's on pause. Michigan State's fighting for their NCAA tournament lives. And that's part of this question. You've got MSU. You've got blue bloods like Duke. I watched them lose to Miami last night. North Carolina, John Calipari's Kentucky team. All of these blue bloods don't look like they're going to make the big dance. So the question to you, Brian, and everybody out there, will the NCAA tournament lose luster without these big names and blue bloods?
Well, I just for reference, if you look at the 4 blue bloods that you mentioned, Duke is 7-6 after losing to Miami yesterday. I was watching some of that game too, and it was not a fun watch. North Carolina 11-5, actually not a bad record. Michigan State is 8-6, and as you mentioned, they were down by 5 at the half. Kentucky, they're 5-10. So, I mean, they're almost at a position where they have to either win out or win the SEC tournament to get in. Is it going to lose its luster without Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, and Michigan State? I mean, first of all of them are not going to miss the tournament, because at 11-5, at 6-3 in the ACC, tied for 4th, North Carolina is pretty firmly in. According to according to Joe Lunardi of ESPN, they're a number 9 seed. Now, when you think about those 4 blue bloods, the number 9 seed being the highest of the 4, then that's certainly an issue. But I don't think that North Carolina is going to have trouble getting in. They might have trouble getting out of the first weekend and perhaps even winning their first game. Duke, they're in the next 4 out alongside Penn State, and Kentucky and Michigan State, they're nowhere to be found. I mean, Kentucky sitting there at 5-10, like I mentioned. And I was watching, I forget what game I was watching yesterday. It might have been that Duke Miami game, but they said Michigan State is 13th in the Big Ten. And I'm thinking, wow, they're only ahead of Penn State. But no, they're behind Penn State. Nebraska is the only team that's worse than them. I think that it won't be the same without blue bloods, but this season has not been the same whether Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Michigan State are great or not. I mean, certainly these teams don't have the cachet where on a Tuesday night you're tuning in to see what lottery picks they have and who's the next Zion Williamson or who's the next Josh Jackson or Jaren Jackson that you want to see play. But it's just like we talked about in an episode of the Fifth Chapter over the summer. Dana White said about the UFC, nothing is effed up right now because everything is effed up. And that's what things are like right now in college basketball. You mentioned Michigan State being off for 3 weeks. Michigan is off for 2 weeks plus some time to, I guess, ramp up. You got and they're sitting there at number 4 in the country. You got basketball, in my opinion, being harder to watch just without any fans because you're used to the buzz in the background of, like in the NBA, you at least have the Oregon playing if you're in New York, or you've got the DJ system playing in the background. But without the Cameron Crazies or the Izzo or just the buzz from the crowd in the student section, it's so much less exciting, and it just doesn't get you amped up. Nobody's storming the court if an underdog gets a big win. Nobody's shouting left, right when somebody fouls out of a game. It's so the tournament is going to be different just because the season is going to be different, and the tournament is not going to be as interesting because the season isn't going to be different. When you have a 12 seed with the opportunity to take out a 5 seed in the tournament, and there's no fans in Indianapolis to cheer them on, it's not going to be as good. So if there was ever a year for all 4 of those teams or 3 of those 4 teams to not make it, it'd be this year.
Yeah, I get it. I think by now everybody would rather have fans in the stands. It's much more enjoyable. It amps you up. It certainly adds to it. There's no debate to that. But I've also gotten used to it. It's like 9 months. Like I watch NFL games. I would rather have the fans in there, but I'm all right. I still am able to enjoy the games. It was the same thing with college football. It's like, get used to it. It's still all right. The one thing I've never gone into a tournament, an NCAA tournament, and thought, wow, this sucked, or boy, this team's not in it. It never has disappointed me. I always have the big time upsets. I've never gotten where it's been a Final Four and said, oh, this is a dud. Ever. Now I'm a big college basketball fan, and I look here. If it came out and it was Gonzaga, Baylor, Houston, and Iowa, that would be a great Final Four. If you went in there, it was like Houston and Iowa, and then 2 teams that I don't know, like the Chicago Loyola. You might be like, you do need some, either the teams like Gonzaga's ranked 1 and Baylor's 2. You do need some heavyweights at least on the seeding to be in there. You don't want the whole thing to be upset city. Maybe that would be something where you'd look at it and say, hey, this is kind of disappointing. In the same breath, how many times I've watched NCAA tournaments and have had to listen to people like, oh, not Duke again. It's always Duke and North Carolina. It's always Kentucky. I'm tired of these. Let's get some fresh blood in there. Well, here you go. You know what? I've watched Baylor and I've watched Gonzaga a bunch this year. Those 2 teams are great. Those are great teams. Who cares if it says Duke or if it doesn't say Kentucky? That Baylor team is exciting. Gonzaga is awesome. They got the best player in the country. So the one part about it locally is it's nice to have both Michigan and Michigan State and one of the directional schools too, or UAD or Oakland. Sometimes, you get 3 or 4, and that makes that first weekend really exciting because you see those games. But that's a long-winded answer to say, no, I don't think it's going to affect it at all. I think it's a tournament that never disappoints, and I don't expect it to this year either.
Well, when it comes to the teams not making the tournament, like a Duke or a North Carolina, Kentucky, who I think is certainly going to make it, certainly Kentucky, they've got no chance. I'm with you in that I'm going to watch no matter what because every single year you've got teams that are, nondescript ACC teams like a North Carolina State facing some team like Drake that could turn out to be one of the most exciting games in the first round of the tournament, could be somebody's upset special, and I'm going to watch no matter what. But for me,
I think State fans, I can see them being salty and being like, this
Sure.
sucks.
Yeah.
Because they're, the 22 years. But
they're looking up at Penn State.
People go and maybe they'll be able to go to the casinos this year. All of the other years when I go out, I like watching the games at home. Now this year I'd rather go out. But when I see everybody's just got their brackets. They're just worried about who's advancing.
Yeah, well,
and it's really just about that. They don't care about the name recognition of the teams being in there.
Correct.
They really just care about the teams that they picked advancing, and that's what makes it exciting for them.
Well, and I agree with that. That's what I think when I fill out my brackets. I want to win the pool. I want the teams that I picked to win. So if Kentucky is not in the tournament, I don't care. If Eastern Kentucky is, and I have them winning 2 games to get to the Sweet 16, then I'm going to be a huge Eastern Kentucky fan. So from that standpoint, it's going to be as exciting. But in terms of the visual, I get what you say that we should be used to it right now. But some sports, I think, translate better without fans than others. Like the NBA, whether it was in the bubble or watching games right now, I think translates better than college basketball without any fans. When we were watching college football, I liked watching Big Ten games, but the SEC games that had 10,000 fans seemed more exciting because at least there was some real, genuine buzz as opposed to the fake buzz that was pumping out of the speakers of Ryan Fields. Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it was better than dead silence, which is what we had at some Major League Baseball games to start the season. But yeah, it's not the same as natural noise. But I get not having it because we're in the middle of a global pandemic and people out there still want to act like it's not that big a deal when January was the most deadly month of the pandemic and we got 3 new strains that are going to make things even worse and people just want to shrug it off.
3 new strains?
Yes, there's the UK strain, which is 50% more contagious, and then they've got
Is that the B1? Is that the B117?
Yeah, that's what we taught. That's what the University of Michigan has. There's the South African strain, and there's also a Brazilian strain, which could be more deadly. And they are concerned that at least the antibodies from the original coronavirus might not be effective against those strains, and they're also concerned about whether the vaccines will be as effective against those strains.
It'll be strange not seeing MSU at the tournament. That's from Beth. That's exactly right. But I'm going to tell you this, Beth. For years, I just mentioned how much I like the tournament. To sit there on a Sunday as a Michigan fan and not have the name, go up there on the line. You have to sit there. There's Michigan State. They cut to Tom Izzo, Mr. March. He's always there, and all the players are jacked wherever they're going. It is a hollow, lonely, sad feeling when your team's not up there. So Michigan State will experience, you'll experience that on a Sunday. And
well, when you don't go to a basketball school like me and your team doesn't make the tournament, it's not that big a deal. So welcome to the club if you were like that. Spartan fans, welcome to the club. Although Penn State, being in the next 4 out, according to Joe Lunardi, actually has a better chance than Michigan State of going to the tournament.
Keep wearing those pink uniforms, man. I think you guys play well when you wear those.
And why not?
That's it.
They work.
All right, I'm excited for the 5th chapter.
All right, if you're that excited, then we might as well turn the page to the 5th chapter. And
we should say that when you go use the 5th chapter hashtag because we have a Super Bowl competition. You want to check that out if you're on Twitter. If you don't know what we're talking about, stay tuned because we'll have a way for you to win a prize coming up on the Super Bowl, and it's free. So make sure for all you viewers, or if you're listening on the podcast, to check that out. And if you're just tuning in, we always like to read your feedback throughout the show. So hit it up on Facebook. Same thing on the live chat and all that. Sorry, chat.
Well, I was going to say, in addition to that, if you're looking to get some more free money, we do have the ability for you to get some free gambling money. You can get $25 to $100 in free bets on DraftKings Sportsbook. Just click on the link that you see down there on either Facebook or on YouTube in the comments section. It should be right at the top because I put that in right at the start of the show. You click on that link. Preferably you do it on your phone so it takes you right to the spot to download the DraftKings app. Then you can register, you deposit If you deposit $25, you get $25 in free bets. You deposit $50, you get $50 in free bets. If you deposit at least $100, you get $100 in free bets. That's like a stimulus check. Unbelievable. So make sure you do that with DraftKings Sportsbook. Click on the link down there in either the Facebook or the YouTube comments section. So Dennis, remind us what you selected last Thursday, and then we'll get to our prop bet picks for today.
Well, I've been pointing everything towards the Super Bowl. I'm going to take the Chiefs minus 3.5. Hopefully that never comes down to 3, whatever. I'll lay the 3.5. I also, on daily fantasy, went with the one gamer with Mahomes as the MVP, Hill, Kelsey. I'm taking Butker as my kicker, and Gronk. I think that's a great game, one game fantasy. I can't. Go ahead, make your picks. I'm ready to go on that one, so I feel good about that one. And now I'm ready for the prop. Last year.
Well, just real quickly, on Thursday I had Weber State over Idaho. I think that Idaho was a 13-point underdog or 11.5, whatever it was. Weber State blew them out. And in addition to the prop bet picks today, I had Iowa minus 9.5, and right now with 11:43 to go, Iowa is choking. They're tied at 61 with the Spartans.
Yeah, you know what? I have had some success now, not the ultimate success actually of winning, but I have been very close on picking obscure Super Bowl. I take you back to whatever Super Bowl that was, where the Patriots were down 28-3 to the Falcons. I picked James White to win the MVP. It was like 50-1 odds to win the MVP. And if you go back now, Brady ended up getting the MVP, and White was second there. But what did he have? 16 catches or something like that. And he scored the game-winning touch. He could have been the MVP. They give it to the quarterback, which sucks. But I had White there, and I was that close to cashing that. They could have given White the MVP, and you know what? They should have. Last year, or wait, was San Francisco in the Super Bowl last year? Yeah. Deebo Samuel was my pick, and he was looking like he was in with a chance there. I think he got. I think Garoppolo overshot him in the fourth quarter, and he would have been in the driver's seat. And he was also a long shot to win the MVP, which gets me to this year. And, it's probably going to be Brady, or it's probably going to be Mahomes. We know that. If you want to go to KC, you start flipping a coin with Hill and Kelsey, which actually brings some pretty good odds when you look at it. I was looking at 15-1. But you know what? I'm going longer than that. Plus 5,000 is the Honey Badger. Tyrann Mathieu.
A defensive player. Wow. Okay.
Well, there have been defensive players that have won the MVP in the Super Bowl. It's not like it's never happened. And the Honey Badger, man, he is a special player. I liked him all the way back to LSU. I remember watching him saying, this dude, he was one of the guys I picked to win the Heisman Trophy. I love the Honey Badger there. And could he get a sack? Could he get a TFL? Could he get a forced fumble? Could he get a scoop and score? Interception, pick six? I think Honey Badger can do all of those things. And, he does one or two of them. You see Mahomes, maybe they're running at the Darrell Williams. Maybe Hill runs one in, and it's just one touchdown pass. Maybe Brady throws a couple picks there. And the Honey Badger, I put $10 down plus 5,000. Sign me up for that.
Well, and before I give you my pick, here is the tweet that you can take a look at from our intern, Brian Jelinek, that has all of the prop bets that we're going to be taking a look at. MVP, winner and score, first touchdown, and by which player, receiving yards, number of Giselle sightings, Belichick mentions, and anthem over under.
This is our game that we're putting out there for everybody, right?
That's correct.
Nice job.
I'm going to go, the easy choice is to go with a quarterback because everyone's going to be talking about the quote-unquote GOAT versus the baby GOAT. But I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. I think that while the secondary and the defense has played very well for the Buccaneers throughout the playoffs, they're going to have a lot of trouble getting their hands on the cheetah. I think that he's got an opportunity, as he does with any game, to get over 200 yards receiving. So I'm going to say over 200 yards receiving, and Tyreek Hill will win the MVP.
Yeah, I'm going to put Mahomes. I'm not going to get very fancy there. I know I said I'm going to take the Honey Badger. That's a bet on the side, but I'm trying to win this particular game, and you're going to have to beat both Jelinek, Chapman, and me to claim the prize. And so I'm going to pick Mahomes. As far as the score, I'm picking KC 33-24, so +9. I'm thinking about betting that on the props, too. If you pick the Chiefs to win by 9, you make more money.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs winning 34-27 over the Buccaneers. I think that would also hit the over, but I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game.
All right, what are the next ones there? I don't have the sheet.
The next one is the first touchdown scorer.
First touchdown scorer. You know what? That sounds like a Kelsey to me.
I could see Kelsey being the first touchdown scorer, but I'm going to go with We Are Penn State's Chris Godwin. Let's also not forget that the Chiefs last year fell behind on a lot of playoffs games and had to come back. So why not do that this year?
Not bad. Not bad thinking there. What's next?
Next would be the receiving yardage leader.
Boy, that just feels like Hill all the way. Hill, Kelsey. You know what? I'm going to stay with Kelsey though. First touchdown, also receiving yard leader.
Well, I said Tyreek Hill's going to have over 200 yards and is going to win the MVP. So yeah, I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill as the yardage leader in the game. Next is number of Giselle references.
Now, these you have to actually see her on the TV, isn't it? Say that on there? Not references?
That is not what it says. I can put it back up so everybody can see. It just says number of Giselle references. It says number of Giselle sightings.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want Giselle references. I wanted sightings.
Okay.
I'm going with one. I think there's just going to be one nice Giselle sighting up in the booth. That's all there's going to be.
Yeah, one sounds good to me as well. That's what I'm going to go with. I don't think they're going to spend all day looking at Giselle, unless I mean, if the Buccaneers win the Super Bowl, then you're going to have more than that because they're going to want to show his wife getting excited as the game ends. But I think there's going to be one because I think the Buccaneers are going to lose.
Yeah, me too. So I'm with you on that. And I guess we have to put the parameters down this even into the end of the game. Like, will she be down on the field? I guess there's a possibility of that.
Well, it's during the game, so it can't be after the game ends.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good clarification on that.
Two more. Number of Belichick references.
I'm going one there as well.
I'm going to go with 2.
All right.
And then finally, the over-under on the time of the national anthem. How long is it going to last?
Do we know who's singing off the top of our head here? I don't.
I don't know.
Jelinek? All right. I don't know. It's going to really depend who that singer is if I want to make a informed decision on that. If it's somebody that holds their notes, whatever else.
But you got to give an answer right now, not knowing, just like I have to give an answer not knowing.
You know what? I'm going to say under then.
Under?
Yes.
I'll go over. I don't know what the over-under is, but I'm going to say 2 minutes and 21 seconds.
Wow, you haven't put the time down. And I should tell everybody the tiebreaker, if we have out of these 7, it is going to be the score. That makes sense to you?
Yeah, and I'm going to win because it's going to be 34-27 Chiefs. It's pretty much etched in stone.
There you go. All right, so that's the way it's done. You go to the hashtag on Twitter. If you just click on that, and you can put your responses there, and we'll be able to take a look at it on Super Bowl Sunday, and we'll tell you about that grand prize coming up on Thursday. You can also go to the podcast and put it in the review there if you want to be super sweet and do that. That would be nice. I'm hoping one person does that. You'll be the star of the 5th chapter. So I'm looking for somebody to do that.
Sounds good.
All right. So we're good to go. We will talk with you on Thursday. Thanks to Brian Jelinek. We'll even bring him in the show. We're planning on bringing him in the show coming up on Thursday. We'll continue reading your feedback and all of that. We'll be that much closer to the big weekend. Everybody have a great couple days. We will talk with you on Thursday here on the Fifth Chapter. Good night.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, but people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the Fifth Chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spitting the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the Fifth Chapter.